Good evening. Welcome to your April 2nd, 2013, 6 p.m. regular County Commission meeting. If you would mind, please stand with us for an invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Dear Father, replace our doubts with your confidence. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hope everyone had a restful holiday. Welcome back. See, everyone is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready for an evening meeting. Thank you for attending this evening. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes as well as the proclamations for this evening.
Motion to approve the minutes and the proclamations, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Been motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimous. With that, we will turn to the next portion for our presentations. By the way, if you're wondering, we are going paperless, or we're working through the process of going paperless. As a result, if you see us looking at our tablets and iPads and wondering what's going on, it's because we're trying to follow along with this new process. And so we're going to have some fun with that, I'm sure.
Well, Mr. Chairman, they may know that we're wondering what's going on, too.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
I
like that. With that, we're going to turn to our clerk, Ms. Failer. If you wouldn't mind, please read the first resolution, 2013-51, proclaiming designated the month of April 2013 as the National Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Yes, sir. A resolution designating the month of April 2013 as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. For more than a century, Children's Home Society of Florida has upheld our legacy of protecting the lives of abused children and families. Every 42 seconds, a child suffers from abuse and neglect, and Children's Home Society of Florida is here to change the story for a child in our community. Children's Home Society of Florida, Treasure Coast Division, works diligently with United for Families and the Department of Children and Families to ensure that every child suffering from abuse has a brighter future and a hope for a safe life. Children who have suffered from abuse or neglect are at least 25% more likely to experience a problem such as delinquency, teen pregnancy, low academic achievement, drug use, and mental health problems. Children's Home Society of Florida, along with its community partners, embraces opportunities that can potentially change the way society cares for children and youth. Act now to protect children in St. Lucie County. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida. This board does hereby proclaim the month of April 2013 as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. In honor of this event, the board encourages community agencies, religious organizations, businesses, and others to celebrate adoption, honor families that grow through adoption, further an awareness of the changes and issues in adoption, and focus attention on those children who live in the shadow of an uncertain future while they await forever families. Passed and duly adopted the second day of April 2013.
Come on up. How are you? Great. We're expecting, in fact, we have something different we're trying tonight.
Great.
Let's use a little plaque just to do something a little nicer.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you would mind, say a few words for us.
I would love to. Thank you so much. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you so much for recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. April was first declared Child Abuse Prevention Month by Presidential Proclamation in 1983. Since then, April has been a time to acknowledge the importance of families and communities working together to prevent child abuse. In 2012, it was reported that 3.3 million reports of child abuse were made in the United States involving 6 million children. It is also estimated that 5 or more children die per day at the hands of their abusers. To raise awareness about the impact of child maltreatment and its prevention, the Blue Ribbon Campaign is held each year during the month of April, Child Abuse Prevention Month. This campaign began with a Virginia grandmother who began tying a blue ribbon to the antenna of her van as a reminder of the death of her 3-year-old grandson at the hands of his mother's abusive boyfriend. The action touched so many in the community that it spread to neighbors, the media, and eventually the nation. I have blue ribbons for each of you today. I hope you'll wear them throughout the month of April. Although child abuse is a serious problem and often life-threatening, it is 100% preventable. The cycle of abuse can be prevented by early interventions and the support and preventive services to the families. Last year, 126 precious children lost their lives in the state of Florida as a result of abuse and neglect. Florida has a death rate twice as high as the national average. April's observance of Child Abuse Prevention Month is an opportunity to remind ourselves of our shared responsibility to prevent the abuse and neglect that robs so many of our community's children of their childhood, their sense of security, and well-being. I urge you to get involved and support the prevention of child abuse to protect our children and their future. The healing that occurs when a community joins together to strengthen families, reduce the incidence of child abuse and neglect, and protect children from its negative effects will benefit the Treasure Coast and St. Lucie County for generations to come. Children's Home Society of Florida is here every day working to prevent child abuse prevention, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we continue on the theme related to child abuse prevention, we're going to have the next resolution. Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, actually, I'll take this one. I noticed that Clerk Phelan has 7 tonight, so I thought I'd come and help her out a little bit.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. A resolution proclaiming the month of April 2013 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and congratulating Castle on more than 3 decades of service to the St. Lucie County, Florida citizens. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. National Child Abuse Prevention Month will be recognized throughout the United States during the month of April 2013. Preventing child abuse and neglect is a community problem that depends on involvement among people throughout the community. Child maltreatment occurs when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources and don't know how to cope. During periods of economic challenges, families feel more vulnerable, and as a result, child abuse and neglect increases dramatically. Child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure each family has the support they need to raise their children in a healthy environment. Child abuse is considered to be one of our nation's most serious public health problems, with scientific studies documenting the link between the abuse and neglect of children and a wide range of medical, emotional, psychological, and behavioral disorders. All children should become involved in supporting families in raising their children in a safe and nurturing environment. Effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among state and local government agencies, schools, faith communities, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Castle of the Treasure Coast, incorporated in 1981 as the Exchange Club Center for the Prevention of Child Abuse of the Treasure Coast, Incorporated, was the first center in the country created for the sole purpose of bringing awareness to and breaking the cycle of child abuse. It has become the model for a network of more than 100 such agencies throughout 27 states, all working to win the battle against the devastating pain and lifelong results of child abuse. CASTLE, which stands for Child Abuse Services, Training, and Life Enrichment, through its support of parent aid programs, parenting classes, educational programs, and community service activities, is making significant progress in stopping that crime against families and children. CASTLE's mission is to prevent child abuse and neglect through education and awareness. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida. This board does hereby proclaim the month of April 2013 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. And this board further congratulates CASTLE on its more than 3 decades of service in St. Lucie County, Florida, and urges the citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, and businesses of St. Lucie County to increase their participation in CASTLE's efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening our community. Passed and duly adopted the 2nd day of April, 2013.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, we have this proclamation, which we'd love to present to you. And if you don't mind, we'll just take a quick picture. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Why don't you tell us a few things about this?
On behalf of council, I would like to say thank you to the county commission and chairman for recognizing Child Abuse Prevention Month. As many of you have driven down Midway Road, you see those 126 white flags that we have flying out there right now. Those represent every child in the state of Florida that died this past year due to child abuse or neglect. And it is our job and our mission to try to reduce those flags and make sure there are none. So we will continue to do work in St. Lucie County to prevent any more abuse or neglect, and hopefully one day there will be no flags represented in that field. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Good job.
All right. April 6th, we're going to have that proclaimed as Children's Day, along with April 7th as Parents and Children's Day here in St. Lucie County. With that, Madam Clerk, or Clerk? Okay, great. Thank you. Please read the proclamation.
Yes, sir. A resolution proclaiming April 6, 2013 as Children's Day in St. Lucie County, Florida, and April 7, 2013 as Parents and Children's Day in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. The 18th Annual Children's Week celebrating parents and children will take place in Tallahassee from April 7, 2013 to April 12, 2013, bringing thousands of parents, children, professionals, policymakers, community leaders, and concerned citizens together to share valuable knowledge and information about children's issues across the state and in our capital city. The purpose of Children's Week is to create a shared vision of the state of Florida's commitment to its children and families, and to engage in a long-term process to develop and implement strategies for moving the shared vision forward. Children's Week has teamed up with more than 100 leading statewide businesses and nonprofit organizations and hundreds of local organizations to expand the network of community involvement and education in a wide array of children and family issues at the local level, and conduct events and activities in January, February, March, and April in all 67 counties focused on improving the health, safety, and well-being of Florida's children and families. Hundreds of local municipalities have officially proclaimed Children's Day and hosted hundreds of public events and activities for parents and children in their community. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, this board does hereby proclaim April 6, 2013 as Children's Day in St. Lucie County, Florida, and April 7, 2013 as Parents and Children's Day in St. Lucie County, Florida. Originally established as Children's Day in 1988, the 2002 Florida Legislature renamed this official statewide Florida holiday as Parents and Children's Day to more fully reflect support of the most important institution in Florida, the family. Passed and duly adopted the second day of April 2013.
As you may notice here in our chambers, we actually have some pretty great decorations. I'm not sure, are we in the state capitol right now? Because I know that this is something we commonly see there in the state capitol. But Tony, welcome. The show is yours tonight. We want to take a quick picture, provide you with this resolution, and want to hear some words. Thanks. Well, actually, group, we're going to get a picture with all of us, if you don't mind, here in a minute after he provides his comments. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, first of all, for allowing us to come and hang the hands and bring part of this event that happens on an annual basis in Tallahassee here locally. And I'd like to thank Kimberly Smith. She's one of our resource specialists. She here coordinated all of the hanging of the hands throughout our entire county. I wanted to let you know that the Early Learning Coalition of St. Lucie County has been an active participant for many years with Children's Week, and we have our local event is the Family Fun Fair, which will be happening this Saturday at John B. Park and actually Lawnwood Stadium from 11 to 2, and it's a free event. So just about everything except for the food is free. So we'll have bounce houses, we'll have animals, interactive sports activities, so it's going to be a great event for parents and children and families to do things together. We, in addition though to the local events that are held throughout the state, every year tens of thousands of hands are hung in the State Capitol Rotunda building. And if you have ever had the chance to experience that, it is just an awesome sight to see those hands hanging down. So this is just a small fraction of that. And I do want you to know, though, that yes, all of these hands were made here locally at all of our child care centers and school district sites. And Kimberly, though, is actually making a trip to Tallahassee on Saturday right after our event to hang hands that were made locally up in Tallahassee as well. So our children will be represented locally and in Tallahassee this week. So the Children's Week is the 7th through the 12th. And again, we just appreciate your support and your understanding and commitment to children, because children will take us into the future. They will be our future leaders in our county as well. So thank you.
Excellent, Tony. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise, we get all the hands in. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
I'm sorry, I need to mention, I want to thank Eric for helping us organize the hanging of the hands, and also Willie Redden out at the Parks and Rec for helping us with the event. So thank you again.
By the way, I know Tony didn't mention as well, but Tony Loop obviously is the CEO, so we appreciate all that you're doing. Thank you very much. With that, let's move on to the next one. Tag team again, moving across to our clerk. Excellent. This is going to be proclaiming the month of 2013, or the month of April 2013, as Water Conservation Month. With that, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A resolution proclaiming the month of April 2013 as Water Conservation Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Florida's natural beauty, crystal blue waters, and white sand beaches attract residents and visitors from around the world, and clean and sustainable water resources are vital to Florida's environment, economy, and quality of life. More than 90% of Florida's drinking water is supplied by underlying aquifers, and our quality of life and the economy depend upon a clean and healthy environment. Floridians consume more than 7.9 billion gallons of fresh water per day, and the future of Florida depends greatly upon the availability of water. South Florida residents consume 179 gallons per person per day, the highest water usage in the state. The state of Florida, together with local partners, are investing billions of dollars to develop alternative water supplies, clean up stormwater pollution, restore rivers, lakes, and springs, upgrade drinking water facilities, and improve wastewater treatment. Water conservation can cost as little as 6 cents to 72 cents per 1,000 gallons of water saved, while the cost of constructing alternative water supply facilities may exceed $7 per 1,000 gallons of water created. All water users, including commercial, industrial, agricultural, institutional, hospitality, private citizens, and others, can make a positive contribution to reduce water use and protect Florida's water resources. The South Florida Water Management District is implementing a comprehensive water conservation program to instill a lasting culture of conservation in our communities. The Governor and Cabinet of the State of Florida are designating April as Florida's Water Conservation Month to encourage Floridians to conserve the state's precious water resources. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida. This month does hereby proclaim the month of April 2013 as Water Conservation Month in St. Lucie County, Florida, and this board urges the citizens and businesses of St. Lucie County to help protect our precious resource by practicing water-saving measures and becoming more aware of the need to save water. Passed and duly adopted the second day of April 2013.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. With that, I believe Bill Graff, or Lori Waldy. And it's been one of those nights where it seems like every name on my list has been different. So, Lori, excellent. Thank you on behalf of South Florida Water Management District as our utility director. Thank you. Would you like to say a few words?
I would.
Thank
Good evening, Lori Wall, the Utility Director on behalf of South Florida. Unfortunately, they could not make it. They had pre-arrangements in Okeechobee, and when we changed our schedule, they couldn't make it. But as we all know, conservation efforts are very important. Water is a precious resource, and the only way we continue to save is by looking at conservation efforts. We are, as an FYI, our South Hutchinson Island plant and our North Hutchinson Island plant do have reclaimed water, which is an alternative water resource which helps reduce potable water use. And we're looking to have that same thing happen at Holiday Pines in the future. So St. Lucie County is working to have alternative water supplies as well as looking at other ways of conservation. Thank you.
Good job. Good job.
All right. This is a fun one. I love this. This is great. Gentlemen, how are you? Good. We are going to be proclaiming April 19th as Patriots Day here in St. Lucie County. And with that, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, sir. A resolution proclaiming April 19, 2013 as Patriots Day in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Late in the evening of April 18, 1775, 3 men went to the Old North Church in Boston. Sexton of the church, Robert Newman, and at least 2 members of the Sons of Liberty, Captain John Pulling and Captain Thomas Barnard. Captain John Pulling, a vestryman of the church, demanded the keys to the church from Robert Newman, and Newman gave the keys to him. It is unknown who actually held the lanterns in the belfry, but the act of Robert Newman giving the church keys to Captain John Pulling saved Newman when he was arrested the following day. At least 4 men were waiting for the signal. The Sons of Liberty knew the British orders. Go to Lexington and arrest John Hancock and Samuel Adams for treason. Continue on to Concord and destroy a cache of arms stored there. The men we know that were waiting to ride were Paul Revere, William Dawes, Dr. Samuel Prescott, and Richard Devens. There were probably more, either spaced along the main routes out of Boston and or waiting with the 4 we knew. They rode in the night, stopping to notify leaders of the Sons of Liberty, members of the committees of safety, and captains of local militias. In the morning, there would be thousands of armed citizens gathered on village greens from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, south to Providence, Rhode Island, and west to Worcester, Massachusetts, and Hartford, Connecticut. The most famous would be at Lexington, Massachusetts, where on the green, the shot heard around the world was fired, and the second most, the brigade at Concord, where the British were turned back to Boston. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, that this board does hereby recognize the men who risked everything so that we could be free, and proclaims April 19, 2013 as Patriots Day in St. Lucie County, Florida, passed and duly adopted the 2nd day of April, 2013.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Well, I don't think we're being attacked, but I tell you, I'm glad to see you gentlemen here tonight. Have you seen the recent commercial where they have Paul Revere sitting in his house and cell phone rings and, oh, they're coming, great, the British are coming. And then he goes back to, isn't that great? So I think it's here tonight. Is Paul Revere here tonight?
No.
No. Well, we're glad that you're here. Paul Rediger, if you want, Jay Wise?
Chris Wade.
Oh, it's Chris?
Carl.
Carl? Okay.
Jay Wise.
We're going to provide you with this.
Put you in the middle.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind, provide a few words for us.
Yes. My name is Paul Rediger, and I'm the president of the St. Lucie River chapter of the National Society Sons of the American Revolution. On each April 19th, we try and acquaint the public about Patriots Day and its meaning to this nation. Mr. Smith covered the story pretty well, but I will flesh it out just a little more. John Pulling was acting under orders from Samuel Adams, and when he demanded the keys to the church, he saved Newman's life because he was charged the following day with treason. And since there were witnesses, Newman was released. Otherwise, he would have been charged and hung for treason. Pulling was the head of the Action Committee of the Sons of Liberty in Boston, Massachusetts. He had been one of the organizers of the Boston Massacre in 1770, and he was the chief Mohawk at the Boston Tea Party. Pulling and Newcomb went into the church and climbed into the steeple while Bernard stood watch. Shortly after the lanterns were hung, British soldiers arrived. Bernard called a warning and escaped, disappearing into history. Pulling and Newman rushed down the ladder and escaped out an emergency exit behind the pulpit. Newcomb went home, where he was arrested the following day. Pulling gathered his family and went into hiding in a boathouse in Cohasset, Massachusetts. They would spend over a year hiding there in conditions that ended breaking his health, and he died soon after, a comparatively young man. Newman was freed because of witnesses that supported his story, and there was no further evidence, and therefore the British could not continue to hold him for treason and released him. On the opposite bank, two men waited, Paul Revere and William Dawes. Now they would meet Devons and Prescott on the ride, and they would ride with them, each separately and unknown to the other. Both rode to Lexington to warn John Hancock and Samuel Adams that they had been charged and were to be arrested. Both men arrived separately, giving warning, and both rode on to Concord. Revere was captured and held for a time, but there was no proof of wrongdoing, and he was released and returned to Boston. Dawes went on to Concord and gave warning and then vanishes into history. Only recently has been receiving his due. Early in the morning, British troops arrive in Lexington to find Adams and Hancock gone, with 77 American militia blocking their way. No one knows who fired the shot heard around the world, but the British soldiers fired into the American lines, killing 8 and wounding many others. By the time the British officers got control of their forces, the Americans had scattered, and then the British continued on to Concord. It was an entirely different reception awaiting there. American militia had formed up, and when British troops formed, the two sides exchanged fire. The Americans did not break, and the British tried to withdraw back to Boston. A running battle ensued, and 277 men would die that April 19th, and there would be no turning back to the way things had been. This would begin 8 long years of war, ending with the approval by Congress in January of 1784 of the Treaty of Paris. We of the St. Lucie River Chapter wish to thank the County Commissioners of St. Lucie County for this proclamation and their annual cooperation with us. Thank you very much again. Jay would like to make an announcement.
Thank you. Yes, I would. We've spent the last 2 or 3 months, or about most of the last year, trying to put together a monument in the Port St. Lucie Veterans Memorial Park that's on the Veterans Highway, as a monument to the War of the American Revolution. We are about to be successful. We hope to dedicate it at the end of the meeting, Memorial Day meeting coming up on the 28th of May. The new memorial is a pedestal of black granite with a cast bronze 18-inch plaque, and it's gorgeous. We have it. It's paid for, and we're waiting on the Park Department from Port St. Lucie to give us a slab of concrete to set the thing on, and we're ready to go. And this has been a long, long policy fight amongst us, but we're about successful, not quite. Well, We will get invitations to people such as you folks. We'd like to have some walk-ups, some people just come by and see us when we dedicate it. It'll be like pulling a shroud off of a painting or something. That's about all it's going to be there. But we're proud of it. We're very proud of it. So come see us when we let you know. Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it so much.
Thanks.
All right, moving to a little more somber moment here. We have also going to be proclaiming the month of April 2013 as Sexual Awareness Month, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, I should say. With that, Madam Clerk, please read the resolution.
A resolution proclaiming the month of April 2013 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Every 45 seconds, someone in the United States is sexually assaulted, and in Florida, 17% of women have been raped at some time in their lifetime. Rape, sexual assault, and violence impacts women, children, and men of all racial, cultural, and economic backgrounds, many of whom can and do experience acquaintance rape, stranger rape, sexual assault by an intimate partner, gang rape, incest, stalking, serial rape, date rape, ritual abuse, sexual harassment, child sexual molestation, prostitution, and pornography. We must work together to educate our entire population about what can be done to eradicate and prevent sexual assault. Support survivors and victims alike to ensure that they are given the help that they need to ensure that they are not re-victimized. Staff and volunteers of victim support programs in St. Lucie County work year-round to encourage every person to establish boundary lines in relationships and encounters in the efforts to minimize and eradicate sexual assault. With dedication and resolve from the St. Lucie County staff and volunteers in Florida, we can be successful in reducing crimes against citizens living in St. Lucie County through a heightened state of awareness and holding perpetrators accountable for their acts of violence. Through the support of the people of St. Lucie County, the Treasure Coast chapter of the National Organization of Women in their Inner Truth Project, the county and the state continue their dedicated efforts to actively engaging in public and private efforts and establishing boundary lines, including conversations about what is sexual violence, how to establish primary prevention programs, how to help survivors connect with crisis centers and counselors, and how every region of our county can work together to better address sexual violence. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, this board does hereby proclaim the month of April 2013 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida, and urge all citizens to duly note this occasion. Passed and duly adopted the second day of April 2013.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone here to receive this proclamation tonight? I know that the name that I have, I don't see her in the audience here tonight, so no. With that, let's go on to the next proclamation. This is also one for the month of April. This is General Aviation Appreciation Month. With that, Mr. Clerk.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last one of the evening, I believe. A resolution proclaiming the month of April 2013 as General Aviation Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. General aviation and community airports play a critical role in the lives of our citizens as well as in the operation of our businesses and agriculture. St. Lucie County has a significant interest in the continued vitality of general aviation, aerospace, aircraft manufacturing, educational institutions, aviation organizations, community airports, and airport operators. There are 129 public-use airports in the state of Florida, serving 51,671 pilots and 25,328 general aviation aircraft, and representing nearly 80% of all aircraft operations in the state. The aviation industry in Florida supports more than 1 million jobs with an annual payroll of over $30 billion. And general aviation airports support more than 54,000 jobs with an annual payroll of $1.8 billion and an economic benefit of $6 billion. General aviation plays a vital role in St. Lucie County's response to emergencies and natural disasters. Florida is home to 190 charter flight companies, 509 repair stations, 3 fractional providers, and 73 flight schools operating 858 aircraft and providing 3,500 jobs. And in addition, there are 154 fixed-base operators in the state. Many communities in Florida depend heavily upon general aviation and community airports for the continued flow of commerce and tourism. Several leading general aviation companies have headquarters or a major presence in Florida, including renowned companies such as Piper, Piaggio, Embraer, Rockwell Collins, and Avidyne that contribute many millions of dollars to the state's economy. Organizations like the Florida Airports Council, Florida Aviation Trades Association, Florida Aviation Aerospace Alliance, the Alliance for Aviation Across America, National Business Aviation Association, National Association of State Aviation Officials, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Owners Association, and National Air Transportation Association recognize and promote the interests and importance of aviation in Florida and throughout the world. Now, therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida. This board does hereby proclaim the month of April 2013 as General Aviation Appreciation Month in St. Lucie County, Florida, passed and duly adopted the second day of April 2013.
Well, I tell you, I love flying as a pilot, and this is exciting to be able to do this. I know there are several other pilots in the room as well. We have our own airport director, Mr. John Wytrack, here, and with that, we're going to provide you with this and a few words, of course.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Ms. Outlaw, and staff, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to recognize general aviation. For those of you that don't know, general aviation is any kind of aviation that's not airline flight. So flight training, recreational, agricultural, pretty much, like I said, anything that's not military or airline is general aviation, and our airport is a general aviation airport. I want to kind of stress, I appreciate recognizing it, that Florida is the capital of the world for general aviation. Countries from all over the world send their pilots here to train because it's the #1 training place for aviation. No matter where you are in the world, if you're on an airliner, chances are one of your pilots trained here in Florida. They covered most of the numbers, but I just want to stress 80% of all flying in this state is general aviation, not airline. One of the changes that's going on with the increased congestion on our commercial airports, general aviation airports are stepping up, and their role is changing from just recreation to actually starting to handle limited passenger operations. So that's a change that we're looking forward to. General aviation airports are important assets to any community they're in, and ours is certainly no exception. Our general aviation airport is one of the busiest in the state, and it's definitely one of the largest land-wise. We have a very dedicated staff, and the potential of our airport is hard to rival within the state and even within the nation. We have a lot of potential at our airport. We currently support over 300 jobs, but the future is extremely promising to increase that dramatically. So thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it again.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Wytrack?
Yes, sir.
Now's a good time to actually talk about our newest tenant at the airport, the Renegade Group. I think it's appropriate at this time since general aviation is an opportunity and
yes, sir.
A recent addition.
Yes, sir. One of the biggest aspects, or one of the upcoming, areas of general aviation is called light sport aircraft. And they're smaller aircraft, and they can be operated. To have a license to fly one is a little bit different than a private pilot's license. It's a little bit less stringent. So people that may have minor medical issues or age issues, they can get a license to fly these light sport aircraft. And as he said, one of the newest companies that I'm extremely excited about, coming in new to have some good news like that was excellent for me. It's Renegade Light Sport Aircraft. And they're manufacturers. They manufacture 4 different models. They do training as well. The gentleman that runs it does a lot of community outreach, and he's going to be working with wounded warriors to actually have them fly these aircraft. So I'm just extremely excited to have this company at the airport. They're going to be bringing at least 75 jobs over the next 3 years. And from my conversations with him, it's going to be significantly more than that. He has big plans. As we talked about, he's going to take advantage of Florida being the epicenter for this type of flying.
And you touched on the wounded warrior side, and he's actually created and built an aircraft that can be flown without legs.
Yeah.
So some of the pilots who have lost their legs or use of their legs through paralyzation in active war,
yes,
they can actually come back and get their wings again.
Yes, sir. I think that's excellent. I mean, I can't think of a better program to be a part of. So.
Great. Thank you, Mr. White.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, John. At this time, we're going to turn to our general public comment portion. Anyone wishing to address the board, please do so at this time. If you wouldn't mind, please provide your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Marty Baum. I live 1192 Northeast Francis Street in Jensen Beach, Florida, and I am your new Indian River Keeper. I assumed my position last October as the third Indian River Keeper, following in the footsteps of George Jones and Kevin Stinnett, both of whom many of you know. I'm here, along with others tonight, to help protect our Indian River Lagoon. We have all been involved in the Port of Fort Pierce Master Plan update process. Advertised by St. Lucie County February 14th this year, it calls for public input to update the Port Master Plan. While involved there, a rumor came to my attention. The rumor was that an entity had contacted the Commission and Mayor of Fort Pierce and all of the honorable commissioners in this chamber behind closed doors to discuss a petroleum liquid natural gas distribution plan for the port. More disturbing was that this rumor claimed that these officials had signed some sort of confidentiality or non-disclosure document pertaining to said discussions. I found this suggestion very troubling. I could hardly believe that while promoting public participation in planning the federally mandated update for our port, that our officials would withhold this vital information from those citizens actually participating in these workshops. After discussions, it was decided that the best course of action would be to come before you and ask for the truth. So, here I am. Mr. Chairman, sir, have you been contacted or held conversations with these interests pertaining to the Port of Fort Pierce and a plan to create here, on our ecologically collapsing lagoon, a petroleum liquid natural gas distribution center?
Not at all.
Thank you, sir. Can you speak for the rest of the commission, or do I need to ask them individually, sir?
I'm unavailable to speak on their behalf. So
okay, very good. I will then ask them individually. Commissioners, please, the two questions stand. Have you been contacted or held conversations pertaining to the Port of Fort Pierce and a plan to create here on our ecologically collapsing lagoon a petroleum liquid natural gas distribution center? And if the answer to that is yes, did you sign a non-disclosure agreement? Madam Vice Chair?
I'll respond in just a minute after seeking advice from the attorney.
Okay.
I personally did not sign any paperwork, but I did have a meeting through the EDC.
Okay. Could you tell us who that entity was, ma'am?
No, sir, I can't. I don't recall their name offhand.
I see. Commissioner Zawalski, sir, same questions for you.
I also met with the representative of the Economic Development Council, with their representative, who represented something to the effect that you've relayed here tonight.
I see. And you were not asked for a non-disclosure agreement at all?
I did not sign a confidentiality agreement personally.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lewis?
Like my colleagues, I did speak to a representative of the Economic Development Council. I did not sign any agreement.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Johnson, sir.
Yes, I did meet with representatives through the EDC, but there were no non-disclosure agreements signed.
I thank you very much for your candor and honesty, but I have to ask, with this ongoing public process, at what point were the citizens going to be made aware of this? You know, we were at this process and we had all these little pictures of boats and ships and warehouses and footpaths, but we didn't have any tanks or liquid natural gas storage facilities offered to us in this thing. So, you know, this process is supposed to all be in the sunshine, and it's rather disappointing that we're not being given the best and latest information, especially by an entity powerful enough to meet behind the scenes with everybody. I guess I don't quite know what to say except to ask you, at what point are you going to get involved with this process and give us the rest of the information? Because the meeting that we held 2 Saturdays ago is now of no use whatsoever. It was moot. We don't have all the information, and there is an end game being played here to put big money and other players into the game. And, you know, this hasn't been part of the workshop.
Mr. Chairman.
And actually, I mean, to sort of help this issue a little bit. Obviously, the Economic Development Council meeting with commissioners is a common occurrence. Whenever they have a prospect for any type of an industry, they will meet with commissioners to make commissioners aware that they are meeting. Generally, it's not with their representatives because of the fact that they are, they are the entity, they are the agency that works through those aspects. As a result, we often hear they're meeting with Project Apple, they're meeting with Project whatever, and just want to make sure that you're aware that this is a potential project that's being considered so that we're in the know from that particular standpoint. The State Department of Transportation working on a grant to update a master plan and to work on that is the goal for that particular area, as well as the goal of this county board. Whether or not somebody looking at a piece of land is something that this county board or the city of Fort Pierce and others would have an interest in really isn't even part of the discussion at this point, as much as it is obviously that is somebody that's looking at it. And generally, commissioners are going to be made aware of things that are being proposed and discussed in a community. Not want to deal with pie in the sky, not want to deal with things that are not specific and known. It's really one that, this board, until something's been validated, that we know something's going to happen, we're not, in a position to be able to do with that. Obviously, anything that even moves forward, whether it's this site, any site within the county, has to go through a normal process of whether or not they have correct zoning, whether or not they can obtain site plan approval, whether or not it's a special exception use. All those are things that have to come along from that particular standpoint. So I think really what we're hearing a lot of is something that's being obviously discussed. I heard about it yesterday through comments from the newspaper, but I think it's in reality here. This is something that you're seeing. There shouldn't be an approach taken that this is trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes and to propose something opposite compared to what a community process should and will be. Did you have a comment, Ms. Outlaw?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to ask our legal advice as to, just briefly, what is the process by which any proposal would come through the county, whether it be through the planning department, the building department, planning and zoning, and then ultimately all those public meetings, including coming to the Board of County Commissioners for a final review. Can you give us a brief synopsis?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, Commissioners. As the Chairman stated, this is a process that would work through in the same way as other developments or other projects, in the sense that it would have to meet any zoning development requirements. I believe this is actually located in the city of Fort Pierce, so they'll also have to deal with the city of Fort Pierce with regard to their regulations. Concerning the confidentiality agreements, that is something that a prospective business developer can request under state law, and they are working with the EDC. So, as the Commissioner stated, the EDC acts as, provides information, but it is really the EDC that they're working through at this point. And I think Ms. Outlaw indicated that she had something she wanted to add as well.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Members of the board and the public, I would just like to explain to the board, or maybe remind the board, because I know you all are aware of how the process works through the Economic Development Council. Whenever there is a company that is coming in with an interest to bring a business within the county, as the board's representative, I sit in the prospect meetings with the Economic Development Council. And in this particular instance, I did that as well. But that was many months ago, before we actually initiated the public process here with the port, that I sat in a prospect meeting with the EDC on a potential business enterprise that were looking to come and explore the feasibility of bringing their business here. They are looking at St. Lucie County as one of several sites throughout the state. So it was not that they met with EDC in connection with the public process for the update of the port master plan. Now, given that they are interested in that area, I myself made them aware of the community sensitivity about the port, the strong ties that the community has in spending time and effort to see how the port is developed, and the fact that once it became pretty clear to us that there was going to be a port master plan process, that they should educate themselves on that, because I thought that would give them a real good sense of just how much the community is invested in the development there at the port. So,
I thank you very, very much. Can you tell me who this entity is?
I cannot.
I see. Have you signed a non-disclosure agreement?
I am not allowed to do so, sir. No, I have not.
Okay, then I fail to understand how this process can go forward, and you can't tell me who the entity is.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend having a conversation with Mr. Pelton, who is the organization that does have a agreement with the entity. But I'd like to also, you brought up the master plan, and from the master plan standpoint, is it not true that anything that might come to the port would have to be in the master plan going forward or already in our master plan? And it's my understanding that a tank farm is not in the master plan currently. And as I sat in the meeting with the Port Master Plan update process, only one of the tables that came forward actually showed or spoke about any kind of a tank farm, even in their presentation. So is it true that anything that would go into the Port Master Plan or anything that would be considered as the Port Master Plan would have to be memorialized in the Port Master Plan overall? Asking legal.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, that's correct. Anything that develops at the port is going to have to comply with the master plan, and that would include any amendments that may come forward, since obviously this is a project that is not even under design, or they don't have the property down there that they're that they could go forward with a project. So anything that they do down there will have to comply with the master plan. And that's the same as anything else that might develop at the port.
And as it relates to projects with the Economic Development Council, they do not provide commissioners with the names of companies that they're working with when they come forward, because we're not able to be a part of that confidentiality process as they are. As a result, they will often come along and say, want to let you know we're working with a prospect, they're looking at providing X number of jobs, they're looking at being in this type of area, and they make us aware of that particular aspect. And that's how things operate in that particular area, which is why, as Board of Commissioners, everything from our emails to our voicemails, all those are public records.
Yes, sir.
And anybody is always able to provide or review any of those documents at any point in time, which is why EDCs and others never provide us with that information, because they know that the moment they provide us with that information, it is a publicly available item.
Well, Mr. Chair, I can tell you that your citizens are concerned, and they want to know who this entity is. How do we go about discovery? Do we have to file a motion and go through the courts?
Again, it's nothing that we have that's available from that particular standpoint.
I mean, from your EDO. I mean, they do work for you, correct? I mean, you can order them to talk to us?
No, EDC is completely different as a 501c4 organization, and so they have that ability. But as it relates to the particular project that you're discussing, I think what needs to be very clear was the comment that both Commissioner Zadowski as well as our Assistant County Attorney made, and that's the fact that anything that's proposed anywhere within the county has to go through a particular process. So you could decide tonight that you're going to build kayaks on a particular piece of land. That may sound great. It may be the most environmentally friendly project we could think of. However, when it goes forward, if the land does not have the master plan designation for it, first off, secondly, does not have the correct zoning in place for it, and then has not obtained the approvals by the approving board, whether that's the city, whether that's the county, whether it's both, the project may be phenomenal in mindset, but because it does not comply with those two particular elements, it is not a project that at this point would be something that can be guaranteed or even stated with any certainty that it would be approved. And then the last part, obviously, is the construction plan approval process that they go through. So there are a lot of steps that would come along with anything like this. I think what you're hearing at this point is the discussion that is obviously occurring on the Economic Development Council level. And from that standpoint...
And Mr. Chair, if I may add to your conversation, Mr. Baum, I think that I've been on record of protecting the lagoon and so on. But I would assure you that if anything came through the county's planning and zoning department, zoning process, land use changes, or any of that sort, and it was presented formally to this board, I would have my eyes on it, I would have my hands in it, and you would certainly have conversation with me about it. This is not something that I would let slide. I certainly wouldn't let this board or the county do an end run. Not that this board would ever do that. I don't expect that from this group. We have a great deal of respect on this board for each other and for the community. And at the end of the day, if there was a formal proposal, I would certainly be reaching out to the community and having a conversation. Just for instance, there was a trial balloon several years ago on an inland port. Has yet to come forward with a formal proposal and to be brought through the site plan and development side. So although that balloon has been floated and community has had information and has had an opinion, nothing has come through to this board in our planning and zoning department with the site plan or through the process. So that's something that's out there, but it's not something formal that this board has had the ability to review. So the good and the bad part of this is that you and the rest of the public is aware of what is being floated. This board is very active and very community responsive, and I believe that there will be unequivocally transparency with any proposal that may go into the port. But assured, if a tank farm is a proposition, it would have to be memorialized in the port master plan, to which that will be brought back to the community in about 6 to 10 months, and we will again have an opportunity to go through their presentation, and then ultimately there will be additional public comment regarding what the end result of the port master plan would be, and then there would be a hearing thereof, and then this board would either approve or not with amendments the port master plan for the future.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add to that the conversation, and I think it's important that we all remember that any project that has come before us from an economic standpoint through the EDC is treated the very same way. There was no preference, no difference, nothing shown. It's a process that's been there forever and has been continued to be followed. So,
thank you once again.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members. My name is Kevin Stinnett, 10303 South Indian River Drive, and I am not going to echo the comments of our riverkeeper, but I do want to talk about the process of developing the Port Master Plan. Again, I was at the Saturday before last charrette and found it very interesting. I want to encourage on your part great scrutiny and great skepticism, and I want you to remember from past years promises that have been made about jobs that have never come to fruition, and about money spent. Very often people come through, whether it's a petroleum farm or any other projects, and they make great promises. And I would really appreciate your scrutiny and skepticism in addressing these issues. I want to thank you very much.
Can I make a statement while you're standing up, Mr. Stinnett? One of the things that we looked at, even with the EDC going through the process, we're vetting opportunities for jobs to come here properly. And we're going to do what we can within our power to make sure that we take them through a process and find out as much information as we can, because we do not want to miss the mark. Time is short. It's too important. There's a lot of things going on right now, and we need to be a part of what's going on, because whether we like it or not, we're going to have to move forward in something. And that's where we are.
Well, I appreciate that. I just hope that we all want economic development
Definitely.
Desperately for this community, but it is very easy to, turn a blind eye to things that just don't don't quite add up
Right.
when you want something so much. And I just, appreciate your scrutiny and skepticism.
Thank you, Mr. Stinnett. Anyone else wishing to address the board this evening, please do so at this time. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Good evening.
My name is John Fulbrick. I'm from Okeechobee. My address is protected. I am the creator of the Gary Morales Memorial Highway. And on behalf of those petitioners, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity that we have to come here tonight to present our petition. On February 28, 2013, Sergeant Gary Morales of the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office was murdered in the line of duty. This petition was created to honor the life and sacrifice of Sergeant Gary Morales and his family, and we would ultimately like to honor any wish that they have at this time. This petition is a clear demonstration of what a community united can do. With over 14,000 petition signatures on this petition, we hope to dedicate Midway Road at this time, or any road that you may seek to designate, as the Gary Morales Memorial Highway. Many roads have multiple names or identifiers, such as the Ronald Reagan Turnpike. It's also known as I-75 and the Florida Turnpike. U.S. Highway Route 92, also known as the Arlo Bronson Memorial Highway, and the Space Coast Parkway, covers, I believe, 4 counties. Okeechobee Road and State Road 70 is also called Park Street in Okeechobee County. And as I drove here tonight, I was reminded of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and also 25th Street. We understand the impact and history of Midway Road and any road that resides within St. Lucie County, and we request that the Gary Morales Memorial Highway be added as another identifier to one of these roads in order to honor him and the sacrifice that he has given. This will honor Gary Morales and keep the historical name culture that we have in St. Lucie County. Every 56 hours, a law enforcement officer is killed in the line of duty. It is important that we honor the brave men and women the men and women that ultimately give that sacrifice. While we cannot change what has or has not happened to past fallen heroes, we can change how it is that we honor the future ones from now on and make a greater attempt to recognize their sacrifice. I ask that you keep the Gary Morales family in your prayers and thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fulbrick.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I said thank you, Mr. Fulbrick.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Who do I give this to, Mr. Chairman?
You can actually provide that to our clerk.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if I could ask you a couple of questions that have been presented to me, and I couldn't answer them fully. And I absolutely appreciate your effort and those who have signed your petition. And some of us have met and have known Sergeant Morales and what he's done in the community and so on. Were you aware yet that the sheriff named the training center for Sergeant Morales?
Yes, sir, I was.
And then I've been presented with a couple of questions from veterans of whether it be Iraq War or Afghanistan or current skirmishes around the world. For those veterans or those soldiers who've been lost, what I've been asked is, well, how can we put one person in front of the other and so on and so forth? I wasn't able to answer that question.
Well, I believe I kind of answered it at the end there. I said that we can't change how we've honored past fallen heroes, but we can change how we do it from now on. A week before Sergeant Morales died, I started another petition in Okeechobee County to have Highway 441 renamed to Skip Bryant Memorial Highway. Skip Bryant was the only law enforcement officer in Okeechobee County to be killed in the line of duty in the history of Okeechobee County. And there is nothing around the county that actually designates some sort of memorial for him. We have several events, but nothing specific. The Sheriff Mascara has done a fantastic job, designating things at the Sheriff's office. I was a Sheriff's Explorer back when Steve Roberts died. To this day, I still wear a memorial bracelet with his information on it, so I am reminded of that sacrifice that he made. Chop Stark was a very good friend of my father's. He's honored by having the pavilion behind the sheriff's office named after him. I'm not saying that the sheriff, hasn't done it. He's done a fantastic job. I'm looking to further make sure that we memorialize those people that sacrifice. As a veteran myself of the United States Army, it is very important that we honor all people that sacrifice. At the end of the day, there is no price that you can put on anybody's life because they have went out and sacrificed it for you. And that's exactly what we do. We put on a badge, we put on a uniform, and whether we are standing there as a United States Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy, Sheriff's Office, or police officer, we will gladly die for you. And that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Sheriff Mascara? He's coming up. Obviously wanted to make sure everyone is aware that we have received various letters, both comments in favor, comments against on this particular item, and it's one that has received, I think, a lot of attention as we've gone through the process. Good evening, Sheriff. How are you?
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. First of all, I know you've all noticed a new look, and that's compliments of our County Administrator, Faye Outlaw, and her generous support of the Boys and Girls Club. Also, I caught myself somewhat admiring your hair tonight, Chairman, and I've never done that before, but thanks for having me. Thanks for having me come up and just share some thoughts with you. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Fulbright for bringing this to the forefront. I think it was the next day after Sergeant Morales' killing that he started this petition online, and it's definitely gained legs and support. But just some things that I want to share with you. As you mentioned, I did name the training complex in honor of Gary Morales. In addition, I could tell you that Sergeant Morales was killed 2.5 miles north of Midway Road on Naylor Terrace. And we all know back in 1987, there were 2 Fort Pierce police officers killed on Midway Road. So to rename Midway Road, I don't want to do that as a disservice to those families who have also paid the ultimate sacrifice in the deaths of 2 Fort Pierce officers on Midway Road. Something that has just come to light that I want to share with you also. We had an anonymous donor contact us and make a substantial donation to the Sheriff's Office for the sole benefit of making a memorial, not only for Sergeant Morales, but all of the fallen heroes of the Sheriff's Office. We plan on doing that memorial somewhere in front of our office. We've already had a architect and a memorial specialist come and view, and they're going to have plans for us in the near future. So I just want you to consider all those things before you make your decision on renaming Midway Road or any road in the county. But the decision is yours, and I know you'll make the right one.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments this evening.
You're welcome.
Assistant County Attorney, would you mind just briefly mentioning the process, just so that those that are watching as well as in the audience are aware of what goes into place whenever a road is being considered for being named or renamed?
Okay, certainly. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the county does have a process for naming or renaming roads. Normally what happens is the petition or request comes into our property acquisitions department. We then contact the property owners abutting the road in question to get their input, whether it's in the way of a name or whether they are in favor or opposed to the proposed name change, because in addition to any memorial aspect of a renaming, those individuals and property owners will be affected directly by the name change with regard to their addresses and what other contact information that they have related to the current road name. And so we solicit that information and then make a recommendation, come back to the board, and then the board decides whether the road should be renamed in whatever capacity, whether, I think it was mentioned, a dual name or whether a complete name change to the road. And one thing that we would look at in this case as well is Midway Road is approximately 11 miles from Okeechobee Road to Indian River Drive. So we would need to look also at what segment, or is it the entire road and that type of thing, and provide you information with regard to that. But as was stated by the sheriff, the decision is then made by the board.
Mr. Chairman, just to add to this, I actually was presented this question several years ago. In the hallway right outside these chambers are 3 soldiers who've been killed in action, and several have asked to have their street renamed from where their birthplace was here in St. Lucie County. And it was very difficult to get through that process. The post office was involved and so on. Additionally, a number of businesses felt that they were going to be economically impacted because of the costs associated with changing all of their documentation and billing and invoicing and so on and so forth. So from that standpoint, we should be careful of how we may impact local businesses in any decision made. But I think that the gentleman speaking didn't specifically designate only Midway Road. There could be some other option available to us, but we have to be considerate of the businesses that would be affected, of course the historical standpoint which he raised from the White City side, and I think that's all very important for us to take into consideration. But I don't think there's any immediate need to speed through this. I think we should take careful deliberation of whatever decision may be made.
Good comments. Any other comments at this time? No? With that, we'll return to general public comment. Good evening, George.
How you doing? My name is George M. Baker, City of Port St. Lucie, and I want to address the board. I just want to bring up something. I came here tonight with no intentions at all of getting up and talking. I've had enough, but this thing has been brought up on the port. And I've mentioned this before. I think one of the biggest studies you people need to make before you make any decision of bringing a port in here, you better start looking at your crime statistics. Every port, major port in this country has a high incident of crime, extortion, breaking into shipments, and on and on and on. We've got law enforcement working their butts off now, and you're going to put another load on them. You better come up with some money, because they're going to need some financial help. I think you need to call Carl Hyson. He's an investigator, was an investigative reporter for the Miami Herald for years. He lives up Johns Island. Ask him, let's get his input on the crime they had down in Dade County where he's from. It's a serious thing to consider, because you're going to bring in it's nice to talk about bringing in jobs and all this other stuff. That's great. But you're also going to bring in the criminal element. They follow the jobs, they follow ships, and they follow everything else. 80% of our shipping in here comes in, our products all come in by 18-wheelers anyway. So, consider that crime rate. But you need to make a study of it, whether it's a good idea or not. I think you better check into it. We've got overworked people in the law enforcement now. They don't need another load. Like I say, I had no intention of getting up tonight. I was going to be a good boy and not say anything, but I couldn't resist bringing that up, just to bring it to your attention. Think about it a little bit. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Baker, as always. That's been a common name today, Carl Hyson. CRE. There's Jim David. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioner Maury.
How are you?
I'm fine. John Arena, Fort Pierce. The people at the Florida DOT meeting about the port were not representative of the people of St. Lucie County and surrounding area. They were mostly special interest. I went around to the tables to listen and found only one group showed understanding of the big picture. A couple of weeks ago, I was riding my bicycle north on the sidewalk on the east side of US 1 when I noticed a young lady coming south on her bicycle and a gray pickup coming out of a driveway of a restaurant. He went in front of her, causing her to slow down. As the vehicle turned north, she pulled a camera from somewhere, pointed it at the back of the truck, and snapped a picture. She now has a description of the truck and probably the tag numbers for future reference. She was my hero that day. The earth is now overpopulated. Its natural resources, such as clean water and clean air, are no longer available. Up until some 20 years ago, there was a growing movement in the United States called zero population growth. I think they gave up when border crossings multiplied. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. With that, anyone else wishing to address the board this evening? Seeing no movement, we will close general public comment. Return to the board for the consent agenda. Any item wishing to be pulled at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I will ask that we pull D4, which I will be abstaining for conflict.
Is there a motion to approve item D4, construction services for D9 canal drainage improvements? Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion, second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We'll return to the balance of the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I only wanted to speak to the Phil Chalmers portion simply as a informational for the public. This board, I hope, will approve the item simply for waiving fees at the Defense Center for the event. That said, Phil Chalmers, if you haven't, those of you listening at home or here in the audience, if you go to philchalmers.com, you'll see his website talking about basically his famous book is Why Teens Kill, and with the recent issues at Newtown and around the nation with teen murderers and mass murder type folks, gun debate aside, this has to do with bullying. It has to do with how we treat each other and how teens interact with each other, whether in school or outside that. We have been able to, with a number of our community partners, such as Waste Pro, who's actually helping sponsor this, as well as the Sheriff's Office, the Fire Department, the Fire District, the City of Port St. Lucie Police Department, and the City of Fort Pierce Police Department and Children's Services, are going to bring 3 separate assemblies to the school system, and then in the evening of May 2nd at 6 p.m. at the Defense Center, there will be a free presentation by Mr. Chalmers and Mr. John Romano from New Horizons, bringing a mental health aspect to the conversation. The reason why we're bringing that to St. Lucie County is it's my objective and my hope and the hope of each of the law enforcement entities as well as first responders is to give information to families, parents, school administrators, teachers, and again law enforcement as to what criteria do we know that these children tend to have before they act out. And if we can educate the community as to what these individuals have in common and identify them prior to some action, I think we can eliminate, or if not eliminate, at least stop or try to stop some of this carnage that's happening in our nation. That said, I would like to just take this moment to hope that this board will approve that, but as importantly, invite the public on May 2nd, and it'll be advertised around the community at the Defense Center at 6 p.m. To listen to Mr. Chalmers educate the public on why teens kill. So I'm going to just say thank you to this board.
Thank you, Commissioner Zadowski. Any other comments, items wishing to be discussed related to the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, we'll turn to item 7, public hearings. We'll begin with County Attorney. This is Ordinance 2013-15, an ordinance amending sections 1-14.5-21, adopting to provide for the adoption of a deferred compensation program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This is a proposed ordinance dealing with the county's deferred compensation program pursuant to Section 112.215 of the Florida statutes. Counties are authorized to enter into such deferred compensation programs for their employees, elected officials, and independent contractors. Back in 1983, the board adopted an ordinance number 83-04, which established such a deferred compensation program. And in that ordinance, it designated the National Association of Counties program as the deferred comp program, with the Public Employees Benefit Corporation, or PEPSCO, as the administrator of that program. Over the last several months, the county's Deferred Compensation Committee, with the assistance of the independent investment consultant, the Bogdan Group, has reviewed that program and determined that it's in the best interest of the county employees and the county to change the program to one administered by TIAA CREF. The proposed ordinance would make those changes that were originally adopted back in 1983. Permission to advertise was granted on March 5th, and notice of tonight's public hearing was published in the St. Lucie News Tribune on March 20th, 2013. The staff is recommending that the board adopt the proposed ordinance as drafted.
Thank you, Ms. Young. With that, I know we also have in the audience our clerk, Mr. Joe Smith, as well as staff and representatives.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, good evening. For the record, Joe Smith, your clerk of the Circuit Court. Just wanted to say that we have worked really hard along with the other constitutional officers and board partners and the county administrator to come up with the best plan for both the employees of the county as well as the community. So we've reviewed, we spent about a morning talking to 3 different agencies, and with us this evening, not only Shay Francis, our finance director, but Mr. Steve Gordon with the Bogdan Group, who was our independent person who assisted us through this process. So if you have any questions for him, he will be happy to provide any types of answers that you would need this evening.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board for staff at this time? This is a public hearing. We'll open at this time for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board, please do so at this time. Seeing no movement, we'll return to the board and close public comment. Direction from the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
There's a second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Motion carried. Thank you all for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Mr. Gordon as well. Thank you for your time. Turn to item number 2. Ms. Young.
Assistant County Attorney Catherine Barbieri will be presenting this item.
Good evening, Ms. Barbieri.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. As stated for the record, Assistant County Attorney Catherine Barbieri, and you have Ordinance 13-012 before you, and it's to establish procedures for St. Lucie County to provide reasonable accommodations for persons who have disabilities as provided by the Federal Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. This item was brought up because neighboring jurisdictions were having some issues about providing the reasonable accommodation. This is the second of 2 public hearings. The first public hearing was on March 19th. Notice was provided on March 21st, and it would be effective upon filing with the Department of State. Staff is here to answer any questions, and staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for staff? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. We'll open to public comments. Seeing no movement, we'll return to the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. My tablet is changing on me, so let me...
Which is why it takes a little longer for me to get
Yeah.
my motions out there. So if you're
Go to the
wondering why
paper.
it's dead silent, that's why.
Let's turn to item B. We're going to go to Planning and Development Services this evening. This is a resolution to rezone from AR1 to CO. This is for Wright Professional Plaza. With that, I see our esteemed planner, Jeff. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Jeff Johnson, Senior Planner with the Planning Division, presenting this zoning change request. Legal advertisement was published in the St. Lucie News Tribune on March 18th, and a notice of public hearing sign has been installed on the subject property. The applicants Raymond and Deanne Wright are requesting a zoning change from AR1, Agricultural Residential 1 Dwelling Unit per Acre, to CO, Commercial Office. As shown on the map, the subject property is 4 acres in size and is located approximately 1/3 mile north of Midway Road on the west side of South 25th Street. Mail notices were sent to 23 property owners within 500 feet of the subject property. As of date, staff has received no verbal or written comments regarding this request from the public. The City of Fort Pierce has reviewed the petition and has informed county staff that they have no issues with the request and that the county's land use is consistent with the city's land use designation if annexed in the future. The applicant did hold a public neighborhood meeting on January 31st that was attended by 4 area property owners. Their questions were addressed by the applicant, who explained their intention to rezone the property and to construct a dental office facility. The subject property abuts vacant lands that lie to the north and south. There are 2 single-family homes that abut the subject property on the east and west sides. As depicted on the zoning map, the property to the north is zoned religious facilities. The properties to the south, east, and west are zoned AR1 agricultural residential, and also abutting the property to the south is a 35-acre vacant commercial general zone property. As shown on the county's future land use map, the property is surrounded to the north, east, and west by residential suburban land use, which allows a residential density of up to 2 dwelling units per acre. The property to the south has a commercial feature land use. The requested commercial office zoning district is consistent with this residential suburban land use that is designated on the subject property. Planning staff has reviewed the petition and found the request to comply with the standards of review outlined in Section 110603 of the county's Land Development Code. The county's comprehensive plan supports location of higher intensity commercial uses that are in close proximity to major intersections and at points of high transportation access. The subject property fronts South 25th Street, which is classified as a 4-lane divided urban principal arterial that averages 18,000 annual daily trips and is approximately 1/3 mile from the intersection of South 25th Street and Midway Road. The properties at all corners of this intersection are commercially zoned. The proposed change to commercial office allows a variety of professional offices as permitted uses. Offices typically function between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. and would have a substantially less impact on adjacent properties than other types of more intense commercial uses that are allowed in the county's commercial neighborhood and commercial general zoning districts. Any future development of the site would require plans by the applicant that would provide adequate buffering and screening that would lessen any visual and noise impacts to the adjacent properties and uses. The proposed zoning change would result in an orderly and logical development pattern of the general area. There are 2 properties with medical offices, the White City Medical Office Park and a chiropractic office that are just a few hundred feet to the north along the east side of South 25th Street. Additional office uses along South 25th Street would provide an adequate transition or buffer from the visual and noise impacts of the traffic along this corridor to the existing single-family residences that lie to the west. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on February 21st of this year and voted unanimously to recommend approval of this request to the board. Staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the attached resolution authorizing an amendment to the official zoning atlas from AR1 to CO. And this does conclude the presentation of staff. I know the applicants are in the audience this evening. If you have any questions, we are available to answer. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. This is a quasi-judicial item. This time, before we open up for public comment, I want to make sure that there are any disclosures that any of the board members need to provide.
Mr. Chairman, I have not met with the applicant nor any other representative of this application.
Nor have I.
Nor I.
No,
I have not either, so no disclosures to be made at this time. This is a public hearing. Does the applicant wish to provide any comments this evening? Sitting tight. Staff did a great job presenting, didn't they? There you go.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question of staff. Mr. Johnson, first of all, I want to say thank you for incorporating the City of Fort Pierce, because this area will largely be annexed in the future, and I've asked in the past, and I appreciate you taking that extra step. The property due east of the larger portion of that parcel in the green in this depiction, what is that? It says residential, but is there a single-family home there, or is that still vacant, or what is the disposition of that property?
Commissioner, right where the arrow is?
No, just actually
in the square
across it. Yes, right there.
Right there. There's an existing single-family residence there, and that homeowner did come to the neighborhood meeting, and he had some questions that the applicant did address, and I believe he feels comfortable. And I know the applicant has been working with that property owner, and when a site plan comes forth, to mitigate any impacts that the use may have on that existing residence. So.
And that's my concern for that individual with the commercial largely to the south, and now which will be presented to the west of that location. I had concern that property owner might feel kind of closed in with all this around them, but if those issues have been resolved with that landowner, or can be resolved in the site plan review, then I'm comfortable, if that's what you're telling me.
A very good point, and we are aware of that, and that'll be taken into consideration when the site plan comes forward.
Okay. Definitely. Thank you.
And again, the comment that's made is this will require site plan review, and obviously everything will have to be done in compliance with the applicable LDC requirements.
Correct.
Land Development Code requirements. Okay, this is a public comment or public hearing. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Seeing no movement, we're going to close the public hearing. We'll turn to the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimous. With that, we'll return to item number 2. Britton Wilson.
Good evening. Britton Wilson, Senior Planner for the record, presenting item number 7B2, which is the transmittal hearing for a county-initiated large-scale future land use map amendment for portions of 5 privately owned contiguous parcels totaling 14.5 acres. The large-scale map amendment is proposing a change from residential conservation and from conservation public to residential estate, or RE. This item does have a concurrent amendment to the official zoning atlas that will be heard at the time of adoption, which will be proposing a change to agricultural residential at 1 dwelling unit per acre, or AR1. And the purpose of the proposed amendments is to correct an apparent Scrivener's error that occurred back in 1990 that erroneously changed the zoning from AR1. So we are now proposing to return the parcels back to their original zoning designation of AR1. This is a public hearing which was advertised in the St. Lucie News Tribune on March 22nd, and no public comments have been received in opposition to the proposals. The subject parcels consist of a portion of 5 privately owned parcels owned by the Hearns, Hidalls, Colettis, and Marcellos, which are located on Tozier Road and US 1 just north of Indrio Road. This aerial photo shows the western portions of the properties. Outlined in red are the proposed areas for amendment, and the parcels are vacant except for 1 single-family residential home located on the Hearn parcel. And all property owners have signed affidavits agreeing to the proposed changes. This slide shows the proposed future land use change from residential conservation to residential estate, and from conservation public to residential estate. And this slide shows the proposed change in zoning from AG5 and institutional to AR1. And these 2 tables show the history of the subject parcels, future land use, and zoning designations from 1984 to the present. When researching the history of the subject properties, it became apparent that the zoning designations were mistakenly changed due to a Scrivener's error. The properties were likely changed when the hand-drawn maps were electronically digitized back in the early 1990s. So during the mapping process, instead of retaining their AR1 zoning, the parcels were changed to institutional and AG5. The original future land use designations were commercial highway, which is an old land use designation that is no longer adopted in the comprehensive plan. So in order to revert the parcels back to their original AR1 zoning, they must first have a compatible future land use designation of residential estate. This is the 1984 zoning atlas that shows the subject properties with the zoning of AR1. The proposed amendments are in compliance with the comprehensive plan and the land development code, and so in order to correct the scrivener's error, staff is recommending that the future land use map amendment be transmitted to the State Department of Economic Opportunity for review and comment. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Any questions for staff? This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board at this time, please feel free to do so. Mr. Satterley, everything good? No? Things are not good?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Mark Satterley, Planning and Development Services Director. For the record, just as Britton has pointed out, you know, we researched this pretty thoroughly and worked very closely with the county attorney, and it's our opinion that, you know, that at the request of the property owners, we just take this back to what it was pre-1990. So that's all I have to say. And the new tablets, I think, are great.
Okay. Good. With that, any comments from the board? This is a public hearing. Seeing no movement, we're going to close that. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimous. With that, we'll turn to our regular agenda. Seeing there are no items unless county administration is aware of any.
No, sir.
Okay. With that, we will turn to our announcement portion. County Administrator, do you have some announcements for us?
No, I do not. Mr. Chairman, I don't.
Great. Good comments. With that, there is...
Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask, you've got under the announcements that there's a Sustainable District meeting next Tuesday. I thought that was canceled, or might be corrected.
You are correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Hutchinson.
I'm glad she stated that because someone probably would have went in the agenda online, saw that, and
I
would
just
have...
wasn't sure if it was confirmed. I knew there was discussion.
Right.
That was my next comment under my written sheets here, to inform that it has been canceled and will be rescheduled. So with that...
Well, I have a couple announcements, if you don't mind.
We'll skip on and move on.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
I understand when Robert's rules don't apply, so... Anyway, a couple things. Again, Phil Chalmers, May 2nd, 6 p.m. at the Fenn Center. The public is invited, and parents especially. I'd like to point out and thank the Environmental Resources Department and their crew, and by name I'd like to thank them. Brian Pauley, Kenny Brinney, Jose Zavella, and Ms. Jess Baldick. They were out there on the fire line over the weekend with another brush fire, and of course the St. Lucie County Fire District doing a great job. The winds were upwards of 35 miles an hour, and no homes were threatened during this period. And it is good that we have the relationship we do with the ERD and the fire department, as well as the Division of Forestry. As we all know, in the 90s, we had a loss of multiples of millions of dollars in the Port St. Lucie area when a brush fire got out of control. And I just want to thank those folks for the work that they've done. Tomorrow, being Wednesday, April 3rd, the Mark V Special Operations Craft at the UDT Center will be put in place at the UDT Museum on North Beach. And that will happen between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. It's left in an open frame since they're going to be using a crane, and this thing weighs about 52 tons. So it'll be quite the sight to see this vessel being placed at the museum. And it is an incredible vessel. So I want to point out that the UDT Museum is doing great things, and this will be a great addition to the museum, but also to St. Lucie County as a tourism aspect. So tomorrow between 10 and 2 at the Navy SEAL Museum, watch this 52-ton vessel be placed. It's going to be great.
It's a beautiful piece of machine, isn't it? I could not believe how large a piece of apparatus that was. That was really a big piece. Any other comments from commissioners?
I want to say thank you to Shane DeWitt for his commitment to us relative to the paperless agenda that we're working with now. It has challenged me, but because of what we're doing tonight, I have forced myself to stay with the paperless agenda the whole meeting. So I want to thank him for challenging me on that, and we appreciate his support in this process moving forward.
I think you're the only one that doesn't actually have any papers in front of you, so that's great. You did well.
One way to get me.
I did want to mention that our administrator as well, she's getting ready to get up to speed as well, I've been told, so that way she can get rid of the binder. And she does deserve a new designation because she was actually the fire scout this past weekend for the fire. She was out there giving in the reports, providing comments. The flames are as high as the car. There, she was right there. I tell you, she should get a Girl Scout badge of something. I'm not sure what, but I told her it was something we're going to need to add to the job description. It's a new job description. Fire Scouter. Dad, are there any other comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
We'll Erosion District. First on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone from the public? Seeing no one, is there a motion on today's consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
We are adjourned.